Okay, in the last video we talked about the importance of understanding the 10 domains of life when it comes to living the life you want to live. If you haven't seen that video, take a look in the description below for a link that will take you to that particular content. Next, we want to take a look at the values themselves, as this is where we start to define who we want to be. We start to explore the behaviours we want to present with in the areas of life that are important to us, so we can begin to strive for living the life we want to live. So let's talk about it. Values are something we can define in single words. In some quarters, values are often compared with or seen to be very similar to what are referred to as virtues. In the world of acceptance and commitment therapy, which is strongly linked to a DBT perspective, there are a multitude of values we can make our selection from. There's actually a comprehensive list of these values that's provided in much of the literature out there, which is available for people to pull from online or in the publications connected to this work. I've got a list like this available on my website, so take a look in the description below for a link to that PDF. But when I started to do this work, not only with myself, but in particular with the clients I was supporting, I begin by providing this list of values and ask them to choose which ones were most relevant to them. What I commonly found when I do this was that most people would seem to get somewhat overwhelmed with the magnitude of making this decision. There were simply far too many values on the list to choose from, and it would cause a lot of people to get confused and often really anxious. This would generally lead to some kind of procrastination, which would usually set in as a way to cope with the anxiety. And with a little bit of coaching and some exploratory conversations, we'd usually come up with a decent and pretty comprehensive list of personal values that was unique for them. At the same time, without this one-on-one support, it was often the case that people would struggle to commit to a way of being that was in line with anything at all, because, as I said before, the magnitude of the choice would overwhelm their personality system. So, over time, I developed a list of the most common values that seem to show up for people on a regular basis. This list was put together as a result of those exploratory conversations I was having all the time. And at the Liberation Place, we call this list the 5 most common core values. And I want to be really clear, so there's absolutely no confusion. Working with this list is just the start of this particular aspect of the values conversation. They are not the only 5, but they are the foundation from which we want to start. Underneath each of these values, you may find a selection of other values that show up as being important to you, and that's totally fine. So let's begin by defining what these 5 common core values are, so we can get a foothold in where we want to begin this particular exploration. I also think it's important to throw out a reminder that not everyone in the world has an innate desire to live a values-based life. While it's definitely true that the vast majority of people do, there is a small selection of individuals in the world that just simply couldn't give a fuck what the impact of their behaviours might be on you or actually any of the people around them. These are what we often refer to as people with narcissistic and antisocial personality disorders, and in my opinion, we want to avoid these people at all costs, setting healthy boundaries with our own parts that, for whatever reason, might want to be drawn into relationships with them. But also, as I've previously mentioned, while you might have a current belief that you're surrounded by people of this ilk, that's probably not the case, as most people who exhibit a level of entitlement that presents in a similar way to these particular disorders are simply in a state of emotional distress themselves, one that's designed to protect their own vulnerable child. But for those of us that do possess the innate desire for a values-based life, living the life we want to live is all about living a life that has you being in line with these 5 common core values. As I previously said, there will probably be some other values underneath each one of these that line up with who you want to be. For example, if I'm thinking about respect and what that means to me, I might find that the values of compassion, kindness and humility are a part of what being a respectful person is all about. This is totally fine and actually a necessary part of the exploratory process. Acknowledging these 5 particular values as being at the core of our system, though, something that's innate in the vast majority of the population, is a place we want to begin, a place to launch the conversation from, a foundation from which to build. If I'm living a life according to these values, things are starting from a pretty solid place. So, when you get the time, stop and take a look at what this list might represent for you. Sit with each one and think about their meaning. Ask yourself, if I could be true to these values, what would my life be like? How would I be behaving? If I could surround myself with people who were also living according to these 5 common core values, what would I see in them? What would my life be like if the people in my inner circle of support were being the type of people that were behaving this way too? Remember, when we're doing this work, values have absolutely nothing to do with opinions. That's a part of our own worldview, which is something that we'll get into at a later date. But living according to our value system is about being who we want to be. It's not necessarily about having the things we want to have, the place we want to work, the partner we're in a relationship with, the house we want to live in, or even the car we want to drive. Yes, those things are really nice and there's nothing wrong with wanting them. But the problem with instant gratification, otherwise known as the pig, lives in the desire for external rewards to fill an internal void, an internal sense of emptiness that can be linked to an absence of purpose and meaning, a lack of connection to the people around us because we're not feeling safe enough to practice vulnerability. When we combine the areas of life that are important to us with living according to our values in these particular areas, we begin to do things that have meaning for us, which in turn gives life a new purpose. This is an essential part of building internal motivation, stepping away from constantly seeking the external things that have us trapped in a way of life that's pretty much taking us nowhere. Ultimately, living the life we want to live by being the person we want to be in the areas of life that are important to us according to our authentic core values and beliefs. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to support this channel in spreading the word that we're trying to get out there. I hope this video helped you develop an understanding of what it means to live a values-based life when it comes to living the life you want to live. If you want to know more, come join the live online conversations that I facilitate for free each week on Zoom. I'll leave a link to the page containing more information about these groups in the description below. In the next video, I'm going to explore what these beliefs might look like, which revolves around the way our values will manifest in the behaviors we put out there every single day. Take a look at the video that's connected to this content right here to learn more about this particular subject. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to keep your eyes open for the next video. Hope to see you again soon. Take care, be safe, and be well.